lot of being in LA, everything is happening. So the idea that we're half hour on the scene for us is like,
if it takes more longer than 20 minutes to get there, I don't need to go
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rick Westbrook, and if we can go ahead and find a seat or a comfortable place, we're going to go ahead and start, because this has the potential to be a little bit of a long meeting. As I said, my name is Rick Westbrook, and I am a representative of a lot of different organizations in the city. The two that are represented here tonight are the Atlanta Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence and the Queer Justice League. And we are here tonight to talk about the true state of queer homeless youth in Atlanta. This is not a blame game that we're going to go through tonight. We're going to present the facts that we have found over the past several months and let you make your decision yourself. We have several things that are in the work, and when you leave here tonight, you will leave knowing that the situation will start to be handled. It's a grassroots movement. So with me on the panel tonight are people that I've been working with over the past few months, really over the past few years, but the past few months on this particular issue. I have Lloyd to my right. I have Reverend Paul Turner to my left, and Art Izzard. Laura is a straight, gay-friendly activist extraordinaire. Reverend Paul has been dealing with this issue in our community for over a decade. And Art Izzard and I have been friends forever, and he is with Queer Justice League as well, and he works with Stand Up for Kids. We have someone here from the mayor's office tonight. Amy, where are you?
Thank you, Rick. Just wanted to say hello. My name is Amy Phuong, and I serve as the Chief Service Officer for the City of Atlanta. And my primary responsibility is to help mobilize philanthropic efforts around priorities of the city. And in a capacity funded by grants from the Bloomberg Foundation or Bloomberg Philanthropies. And just here tonight just to listen to the conversation on behalf of the mayor and then take the conversation back to the mayor. He wanted to make sure that somebody was here tonight to listen in on and just be here and try to start thinking through what the solutions might be to help, especially in this population. I will, something of note that the administration will announce within the month that we are going to have appoint a Czar that's responsible on homelessness issues, and actually starting to move the needle on alleviating some of those issues associated with that population. So we're excited, and what that Czar will do is sit on the cabinet level, working with various communities in tackling this head on, and will be a part of the administration for the foreseeable future. So I'll be around tonight as well. Rick has my contact info, but in the event that you want to catch me after the fact, what I'll do is I'm going to leave a stack of cards here, and so feel free to email me. Again, I'll be kind of the point of contact until that Czar is hired or appointed and announced, and then I'll be more than happy to facilitate the conversations and connecting with the resources of the city as well as the mayor's office in tackling and making way on this issue.
Thank you, Amy. Paul, is this going to keep moving every time I move? Because I move a lot.
You might have to find your.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and start talking. Why are we here? I've been an activist in the community for a long, long time. My full-time job is I work for Positive Impact at the MR program, community outreach, and I get to talk to men, gay men, about their sex lives. I love my job. One of the demographics on a survey that we do is the youth, 24 and under. So I put out to the community, where do we go to find the youth that's safe and they feel confident in giving me information? I'm not trying to point fingers at anything, but the two responses I got from everybody in the community was Youth Pride and Chris Kids. So I reached out trying to make that happen, and it just didn't work. And I'll explain later on. It sent me on a journey looking for the queer homeless youth in our community. And I'm not just talking about showing up at the mall. I'm talking about looking under bridges, going through homeless centers, looking behind dumpsters, sitting out in front of insurrections, just seeing what was going on with the kids. And I'm here to tell you, it's not pretty. It's really not pretty. I was comfortable before this when I would drive by Peachtree and Pine and seeing all the huddled masses there, or Gateway. I was happy that our homeless queer youth were taken care of because that's what I've been told. That's not the case. It might have been in the past. For whatever reason, currently it is not, and we will cover that tonight. I've got a lot of stories to share with you. Oh, and I'm glad, thank you, Officer Sharp from the APD is here. I know we have some people from Chris Kids here, and Terrance McPhaul from Youth Pride is here. Got a lot of stories that I could share with you, but we picked out 3 very diverse stories to represent what we've ran into over the past 6 months. And I've asked the sisters, my sisters, to read them. So we're going to start with that. Do you want this mic?
No, I'm not big enough. Hi, I'm Sister Fiddle D. Sorry I'm not looking as beautiful as my other sisters tonight. Just didn't have a chance to get it. The story I want to talk about is T, who is an 18-year-old female to male trans person. T lived with his parents until he started hormones, and then his parents decided they couldn't take that and they kicked him out. He moved in with his aunt, but his aunt said, I will only take you in for 1 week. And before that week was out, he was kicked out and we lost him. And we think he's on the streets now.
I'm Sister Ursula Polari, and I'm going to read to you about Elle. Elle is 18 and a lesbian. At 16, her mother got sick on a Friday and died in her arms on Sunday, leaving her and her baby sister homeless. An aunt took in the baby sister, but refused to take in T because she believed that T's lifestyle was against the Word of God. T has bounced around from program to program, always having to hide her true identity, because once it's known, she's bounced back out on the streets.
I'm going to tell you about a story about one named R, who's a 21-year-old male that was thrown out of his alcoholic father's home because he came out of the closet. His birth mother lives in another state and has occasionally been sending him money to help out where she could, but her resources, like a lot of us, are limited. He'd been staying with his boyfriend, sleeping in cars or at friends' homes, and he would earn some cash for hotel rooms. As things turned out, R's boyfriend had a felony and was mentally unstable. When R tried to separate, the boyfriend became engaged and stalked him. Due to ensuing confrontations, R was barred from 2 of the cheap hotels he had been using, and his job was nearly lost. The ex is still stalking him online and sending text message threats and such. Rick and Paul had been helping R out when they could with rooms at bathhouses or at some of the other hotels. Of course, bathhouse is not the first choice for a homeless kid, but they were able to lock the door when he got in there. Cheap hotels are $50 versus the $20 in the bathhouse.
The part that he didn't tell you about Raphael is that because of the response time that it's taken to try to work with the existing programs that are in place, we've lost Raphael. He now has a sugar daddy who's getting him into porn. I can't tell you how heartbreaking it is to get a text from a young man who's happy that he just took his clothes off to have his picture made so that he can get money and be a normal adult. It's ridiculous. It's disgusting. He's not doing it because he wants to. He's doing it because he has to. So I'll leave that alone. In the past, whenever someone calls up or runs into a queer homeless youth, and we use queer because I'm too old to be spelling out the alphabet. Plain and simple. Queer covers it all. And by that I mean, if you're male and you're gay, that's fine. If you're lesbian and you're gay, that's fine. If you're transgendered, whether it's female to male or male to female, you're still queer. If you're bi, it's all inclusive. And the programs that we want to put in place tonight and start tonight covers everybody. No one's excluded. That's important. You've got to realize that. The trans community in our community has been sorely left out in this situation. And we'll discuss that tonight. Unlike our generation that can't get past the gay, lesbian, bi, these kids don't care. They're creating their own families, and we're going to promote that. They need to work together. They are our future. I'll share a story with you. My story. When I came out, it was in the 80s. I'm from Cumming, Georgia. You didn't talk about those things back then. When I realized that I was going to pursue this lifestyle, I realized I had to leave. My parents didn't kick me out, but they were restricting me to the point, and I was an adult, so I left. I was working at the time in Roswell, because there was nothing coming but a Tasty Freeze, at Brandon Square, Texaco. It's the little gas station with a little convenience store in the center and pumps around it. At night when they closed, I'd sleep on the floor. But I had a job, I had a place to sleep. I was warm, I was fine. When I found out about Flex, I moved into Flex. $8 a night, I could take a shower, I could wash my clothes, I could lock the door, and I could sleep. It was a win-win. So, I'm not somebody that's foreign to the concept of being homeless. I've never been on the street. Paul, go ahead and come up here and sit with us. We're going to have some people join us. I know it's, running late. So I've been there. Back then, that was the start of Chris Kids back then. I didn't know about it. We didn't have computers back then. They did, but they were big mega things that you couldn't carry around in your hand. It would have been a great thing. And like I said, we're not here to place blame on anybody. The programs that are out there are doing the best they can with what they've got. But Chris Kids does not serve our homeless queer youth. Chris Kids is a great agency that does a great job at what they do, but Chris Kids' main focus is foster care and getting kids from the foster care system and DFACs. There's a big difference between a kid that's in a foster care system with a roof over their head, clothes on their back, and food in their stomach than there is a kid that's sucking dick behind the dumpster so that he can get $10 to get into insurrection to stay warm. But again, hear me. Chris Kids does a great job with the programs that they have in place. Quite a few of my friends work at Chris Kids. Scott Foster's here tonight. He knows that I respect him. Youth Pride was another alternative that when I asked the community, where do you send kids that are homeless? Send them Youth Pride. Youth Pride is strapped for cash. They do a great job with what they do, but they don't serve queer homeless youth.
That's not true.
They do run 24-hour, yes, Mr.
Yeah, that isn't true. We don't house them at Youth Pride, but we do find them housing at Youth Pride because that's what we're mandated to do, and we have to do it in an appropriate fashion. So we, of course, are not in a position where we can actually pay for someone to go into a bathhouse. There's a certain standard of care that we have to follow. We do not house them at Youth Pride, but rest assured, we have 5,800 visits a year, and these issues are not new to what we deal with. There are hundreds of people coming in each year who have housing issues. So we work to make sure.
With all due respect, I brought 2 boys to your attention. You sent them back out on the street.
No, that isn't true. You did not bring anyone that I'm familiar with to our organization for housing that ever followed a plan that we wrote that ended up back out on the street. Unless they chose.
You did not present a plan when I presented the fact that these 2 boys were homeless.
Keep in mind that unless you are a parent or legal guardian, there's certain information that we can't share with you. So
You do realize that a homeless queer youth has left their parents and legal guardian.
Well,
Most of them are on the street without an ID.
Or if they sign a release. If someone has signed a release for you to get the information, then you're able to have that information. But if they have not, we cannot share that information legally with you.
The 2 I brought to you were over the age of 21.
Have those individuals signed a release for you to be able to have the information?
With all due respect, sir, I was one of the ones that he brought with him, and no offer of assistance was made, and it was brought to your attention that I was one of the homeless
Specifically,
people.
did you show up for an appointment?
Yes, I came downstairs during the show and we talked for 30 minutes.
Because no offer was made. That's
Okay.
what we're trying to say.
So the issue is this, those offers are made all the time. So be clear about what it is. If you come in and you're asking for help, we're going to make a referral for you to see someone. We actually have a partnership with Clark Atlanta University School of Social Work. They're one of the oldest and best social work schools in the country. And what we do is we have a social worker intern who's actually on site at Youth Pride now. She's there 3 days a week, and those are the things that she actually works on. In addition to that, there is a director of counseling services who's actually in the room now, that's Tana, and she oversees the mental health care that is provided to the youth at Youth Pride.
And our telephone call today, the amount of help that was offered was dial 211. That Youth Pride does not provide any housing.
Everyone,
That's not fair to me.
I think we can all agree that there's good agencies out there doing good work. And I don't think the point of tonight is to attack anyone's ego or to attack anyone's organization. The point is to bring to the community's attention, and I think we would all agree, that there are kids out there on the streets that are not being helped.
There are not enough resources. We stand behind that.
Which
That's
is
what
why
we've
we're
been
here
saying.
tonight.
So we even submitted a proposal to the White House, as a matter of fact. They are very familiar with what we're actually doing now and what we've been working on for the past 2 years. But just because we don't house youth at Youth Pride does not mean that youth are not being housed. And queer youth, it does not mean that queer youth are not being housed. So just the characterization that perhaps that isn't happening, it may not be happening as much as we would like, but one of the things that I can't just stand aside and allow someone to say is that the work isn't being done. So I do hear you, thank you. And I commend what you guys are doing in terms of trying to make sure that more is done. We want that.
Let me ask you this then. If I called you right now, and you know, you and I both are on each other's cell phone. If
Yeah.
I called you right now and I said, I've got a kid that's behind the dumpster, I've got to get him off the street, what do I do? What would you recommend?
I would ask you how old he was and what his circumstances were, and I would set him up with the social worker at Youth Pride right away.
But right away would be tomorrow at early.
Or
It would be.
3 days a week.
All right, once that meeting happens,
Well, what I'm telling you is that I actually handled those cases myself before we had the relationship with Clark Atlanta University, which is purposely why I would work a 16-hour day, so that I could actually deal with all those issues related to social services concerns. There's housing, there's food, there's clothing, there's eyeglasses, there are any number of social services needs that youth have that may not have been getting met.
Okay, but is
So-
that just business? Is that during business hours or is that after business hours is what we're trying to find out?
My hours are from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. at least.
Okay, what happens after 10 p.m.?
We have
That's
to
when
make
the kids are laying behind the dumpster.
Wait.
All right,
Look,
hang on.
I'm gonna ask you to raise your hands and we'll recognize you.
There's some more seats if people want to take them.
So I answer my phone 24 hours a day. So if someone calls, and our numbers are posted all over the building, they're posted outside the building. If someone were to walk up to that door and they see my number, that's the number they can call.
Terrance,
Yes.
I recognize where you're coming from and how that felt, okay? But at least my participation in this, I made myself a promise January 1st of last year that I wasn't going to participate in meetings that ended up doing nothing. And we're heading in that direction now. So let me try to put us back on track. Based on what the experience is by people in this community, based on the programs that are offered, we have some huge gaps. And that's really what we got to be talking about. It's not about not what people are not doing. This is a process. One of my biggest concerns is I've worked with the homeless community now for a long time, and if I've got somebody that comes to me that's 21, I can get them off the street. There's places that I can call and we can get them in. My concern is those that are under 21 and those people that fall under the auspices of defects. And as long as I've been working with this issue, the issue has always been, whether it was Rainbow House or whether it's Youth Pride, the state makes it very difficult to work with the people that we need to work with, the people that are at the most risk. So, based on that, there's three things that maybe we need to be talking about, and Youth Pride can work with us, we can work with Youth Pride, and the sisters, that we can figure out how to do this. The first thing is that we need triage for the guy that's behind the dumpster. And yes, Youth Pride is limited by how they can pay and for that person's availability. We need 24-hour availability of people that can work with these kids because they're not showing up 9 to 5. They're found in 10 o'clock at night, or worse yet, when an Atlanta police officer comes across them in a park where they're not supposed to be after 11 o'clock. And in that triage, there needs to be people that are professionally trained to be able to make an evaluation. And from that evaluation, we need to get creative as to what referral do we make at that point. What's the referral? Is it something that can wait for Youth Pride? Is it something that can wait for an opening at Chris Kids? Or if it's a crisis, do we as a community have an emergency place that these folks can go where we've got certified people that can receive them for the night? Now, if we could talk about those kinds of things, then we're going to come out of here tonight with some good progress. I would hope, and I know that there is nothing more agonizing than to start talking about kids and their welfare. But I'm here to tell you right now, the state of Georgia is not our friend when it comes to our kids. And so we need to figure out a way to put our heads together. So if we pay attention to triage, evaluation, and where do we go from there, we'll have a good conversation. Thank you.
All right.
And I just wanted to say,
Stand up, please.
sorry. I'm Bianca, with Spark Reproductive Justice Now, which is has a queer youth-led component. But going back to the conversation that we had before, I feel like Youth Pride is a valuable resource to find kids. So I feel like a lot of the things that he was mentioning had to do with what you were mentioning, legal ramifications. Like if you want Youth Pride to be able to do the things that they do, then the state requires them to do certain things, and there's a protocol. So we have to think of ways to have community-based groups that don't have to follow those legislative protocols. Because the Youth Pride gets their expansive ability to do the things that they do because of the things they have to adhere to. So we have to think of like a way to circumvent that. But recognize Youth Pride as a resource because, like you said, people kept saying, I go to Youth Pride. People know about Youth Pride. So there's a way to network with Youth Pride and go, hey, I need you guys to understand that Youth Pride is, you know, you can contact us 24 hours, we cannot house you overnight, but you guys come to Youth Pride, so let me tell you about this community program that we have set up. So it's about recognizing like the strengths and weaknesses of all programs.
And the purpose of this meeting tonight is to give you the facts, let you make the decisions yourself. For too long, our community has a big heart, and for too long we've raised lots of money and given it to, I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and giving it to organizations that is not using it specifically for queer youth. Whether it be their hands are tied, that they get grants from other places. But what I'm talking about, and this is where you and I differ, is I've got a kid that's on the street now. I may not be able to find him tomorrow. I have to get him off the street now. So you will leave tonight knowing that we're putting systems in place that can take care of that problem. It's not something that's going to fix the problem. That's our long-term goal, and we will talk about that at another time. Yes, ma'am.
I'll try to be brief. I'm Tana. I'm the director of the counseling program at Youth Pride. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'll be brief, and I apologize in advance that I have to go home and feed my daughter and wife. I talked to Paul at length today, and I did more than say 211, so I kind of was a little, my feelings were hurt. But I had to admit right now I'm going to apologize to everybody in this whole community. We can't do everything. I can't do everything. I'm on the helpline. That's me. And that's because 5 people have just sort of disappeared. And please contact me. Get on the helpline with me, please. When I have someone call me at 11, I can talk to them and I can say, tell me about that. How does that feel? You know, I'm a therapist. But when someone says, I have nowhere to go and it's 11 o'clock at night, I don't know where to send them either. I don't have, we don't have anywhere to go, and I don't feel safe sending them to Peachtree and Pine. And that place is under orders to close, isn't it? I mean, and if you're under 20-something, you're not going to get a bed anyway. And I visited there. You know, I took the time to go to these places also. You know, and it's abysmal. But we do have resources for homeless youth. We don't have a place for them to stay. In other words, we have free counseling, we have a social worker, we have a safe place and a warm place, we have snacks, we have movies, we have support groups. That doesn't do everything. I agree with that. When I first got the job, I called all these different places. Don't be homeless after 5 o'clock on Monday through Friday. Don't. You can't. Before this, I worked at DeKalb Medical in their emergency room, getting my feet wet trying to help people who are just sitting in the waiting room. It's abysmal, y'all, and it's not just for queer youth, it's for homeless youth. Yeah. Try to be a woman. Try to be someone who's homeless that doesn't have a substance abuse issue, or really, really crazy and has been hospitalized several times, or an alcoholic, or HIV positive. If you're just a person who's down on their luck, who's queer, or who's a woman with a child in a domestic abuse situation, although they do have shelters, more than queer youth, it is an abysmal situation, and I do what I can do as a person at Youth Pride. And Terrance and I work together, and we try to do the best we can, and it's not good enough, and I'm sorry, it's not good enough. And please contact me to talk about what it is I'm thinking about, what it is Terrance. We're trying to think about it. We have very little, we have no resources. And so we're trying, and I apologize that if the helpline doesn't get answered, I'm sorry, I'm working on it. And I apologize if sometimes I can't offer everything, but I want to hear what we can do. I want to know what we can do. I want to know.
And we'll continue that. Yes.
I'd like to know. I'm contacting you. What are you and Terrance working on?
Well, I can answer that.
Yeah.
In addition to the social worker, like I said, there are literally hundreds of kids who are coming in each year who are looking for housing. Now, some of those same individuals were people who were actually on the street. Sometimes they're on the street when they see us. One of the things that I've been able to really take advantage of is the fact that I was a case manager with Aid Atlanta actually for many, many years, and then served on the board of Living Room, which is devoted to housing specifically for HIV positive individuals. So one of the things that we're able to do is we actually like to go out and look at the places where youth are going to be staying. We certainly don't want them to be in situations where they're re-victimized. But we actually do hear some of the stories where there have been youth out on the street, and then someone offers them a place to stay, and it starts out as just a place to stay, and it's a helpful situation, and then they're getting re-victimized again. So I can tell you that in addition to housing people, because we don't house them at Youth Pride, but we do get them housing, and working on that, we are actually partnered with the Love Coalition and Clark Atlanta University, and we're actually working on a plan that has emergency housing, coupled with transitional housing, coupled with or paired with long-term housing, because you probably know, in a conversation with Sean Donovan, who's the HUD secretary, about a year ago, they made HUD certificates available for LGBT individuals outside of the HUD certificates for housing that were made available to people with HIV. So we actually got a chance to speak specifically about that. Those things are available as well. But in our housing program, one of the things that we wanted to do was ensure that people did not get caught up in a shelter environment perpetually, that they were able to move on to transitional housing and then to permanent housing, making sure that they actually have health care and education as well. Not education in terms of if they don't want to go to college, making them go to college, but ensuring that there is a way to become educated to a point that you can actually sustain yourself through employment.
Or a TV program or something.
Yeah.
Terrance, it's come up, I don't know where it originated at or where it started, but I'll just ask you directly. There's been this thought kicking around that you're working on a plan that's going to go into effect in the next 18 months that's going to do housing or something like that. Can you speak to that?
I think we said in terms of our formal program being in place that we'd have an actual physical building for this. We put 18 months out there as a long-term goal. But we have been specifically working on it for 2 years to ensure that all the right components are there, which is why we reached out to Kaiser Permanente, and they are a partner in our healthcare clinic.
So this would be a housing component of Youth Pride?
Yeah, but they would not be housed at the Youth Pride Center.
Right, but it would be under the auspices of the organization.
We're working on that.
And you're anticipating this would come online when?
Within the next 24 months would be the emergency housing, but we're working on it happening much faster than that. So we have a lot of requests out, and we've actually been talking to people ongoing, and that's one of our reasons for actually talking with the HUD secretary in DC.
And is that what you're referring to, the Clark Atlanta thing? Is that what you're referring to?
No, that's already that's going on right now. That's just going to be a continued component of that program, but that's already something that's happening.
So you are placing kids, and by kids I mean 14, 16 and up.
For the ones who are under 18, we have to follow a certain protocol for them. Legally, we have to. And our insurance is already high enough. And that's one of the liabilities that you will take on when you're dealing with someone who's under the age of 18, ensuring, even more so that their safety is adhered to.
So how does one get someone into this program that you have that exists right now?
Well, all you have to do is see the social worker. In terms of...
So there's beds open right now?
At certain places, yes. We can make certain referrals if someone comes into Youth Pride. So if you send someone in, they do an intake with the social worker, and then we work on housing with them. Now, if they're in an emergency housing situation, the social worker will actually assess if there are finances available to put them in a certain place. But I can tell you, if there is someone under the age of 18 that does not have parental consent and something in writing, we're specifically going to have to contact certain sources because legally you have to.
Yeah, when you say certain sources, are you saying about impacts?
Definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely. And I don't know if anyone, I don't know that anyone who is working in the best interest of a youth is not going to want to get them involved at some level. And I think if you're really going about making sure that the appropriate persons at DFACS are contacted, they may want to still work with an organization in the community to ensure that a safe place exists for youth. Mm-hmm. But I just wouldn't want to, and we certainly can, but we wouldn't want to take on a situation where we're just sending youth out to, because we get a lot of strange requests. And I can tell you, we get asked for 14 and 15-year-old boys all the time, just so that someone can mentor them, take them into their home, and allow them to stay. The issue is this: we need to know where they're going. We cannot just house someone in that situation or send them off to a place that we're unfamiliar with. So we want to ensure that they're safe, and sometimes that does take a little bit more time, And we are concerned about the amount of time that it takes. However, we have to do everything we can do to ensure to the best of our ability that we're sending them someplace safe.
So what I'm trying to get to, and I think what we're trying to get us back on track is, that, and I'll just speak from my own experience. I'm Stand Up for Kids Atlanta's street outreach coordinator. Okay, so that covers queer youth as well as straight youth on the street. We go out and meet them on a weekly basis, find them. We, much like Youth Pride, run a center downtown, but we don't do housing. So what I'm looking for is a phone number, something I can pick up and say, look, I'm about to, my center closes at 9 o'clock at night. I've fed this kid, he's got a shower, he's got clean clothes for the night and maybe a blanket. I'm about to put him out.
So
Where
we could
can
actually
I put him?
call us in the day time.
But that doesn't help you.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, this is the issue. We have a relationship with people who will accept referrals from us. So the thing is this, we have built a reputation around making sure that we follow certain protocols. So if you have someone who's homeless and you want to send them for help, I would say, now if you catch them at night and they want to call the helpline, fine. But the reality is they're probably going to have to come in during the day to actually see someone. But we're asking you that if you have these referrals, try to get them to us during the day.
And I think that's the gap that we're here to talk about.
That's what I want you to understand. We're getting the calls at night. What you're talking about, and you and I will sit down with whoever and work it out in the future, is long-term. We're not going to solve long-term here tonight. So I'm taking back control of this meeting. We're talking about somebody that's on the street tonight and is going to freeze their nuts off and possibly die. You can die in this weather. Let's get that straight. If they don't have the means to get in some place warm, when you leave tonight, you will know a number that will be answered 24/7, and somebody will physically go meet that young adult and take care of them for the night. And I'm not talking about putting them on a couch. I'm talking about we will put them up in the same facility that the living room puts them up in, which is a hotel room with a lock, with a shower, with a bathroom, with a refrigerator, a closet, and a bed that they can lay out on. Now let's move on. Thank you, Terrance.
Thank you.
I do want to recognize before I get to you that we've had Beth Kellerman and Kathy Culberson from Chris Kids join us. Thank you, ladies, for being here. And there was a hand raised in the back.
Hi, good evening. My name is Bill Trimble. I work with H.J. Russell and Company. And we own the Stratford Inn, and I just wanted to let you all know that we've been working with the living room for many years, and we're making an arrangement with the sisters for a very affordable rate of $22 a night for a single or a double room. That could be weekly, and 24-hour check-in. And if there are any other organizations that would like to work with us at the Stratford, we'd be happy to work with y'all. There's refrigerators, microwave, shower.
Yes, Kelly.
My name is Kelly Princeton. I'm here because Rick and the sisters have really got me involved in a lot of things that I never knew was out there. And what I'm seeing tonight and what I'm hearing from a lot of different people over the months, there's a lot of us out there that want to help, that want to make a difference. Why don't we all pull together instead of pushing each other away and saying what's bad what each of us are doing? Why don't we pull together and try to make one thing happen instead of bitching about several things?
It will happen tonight, Kelly, I promise you.
I mean,
we're going to move on.
We're not trying to bitch, we're trying to identify the gaps
I understand
and what needs to be
We all
filled.
know there's a gap there. Why don't we all just sit here and talk about
we don't. No. Our community does not realize there's a gap there.
the ones that are here? I mean, obviously we do.
Did everybody know this before they came into the meeting tonight?
No.
Yes.
Okay. That's what this is about. I want to inform you. And again, going forward into this next topic, we're not here to vilify anybody. And please, you two in the back, pipe up. The other place that they told me to send kids was Chris Kids. let me be clear. Chris Kids does a wonderful job with what they do. But just like you saw with Terrance at Youth Pride, they don't have a triage center. I cannot make a phone call right now and say, I've got a kid here, transgendered. I have to get them off the street tonight. I need a place for a couple of days until we can reach out to other agencies and get them off the street. Chris Kids cannot do that. And our community has been under the assumption for several years now. Now, Chris Kids used to be the place for that with the Rainbow House. But our community has been given lots of money, and I still encourage them to help Chris Kids out. But they cannot handle a homeless queer youth now.
May I make a suggestion, Rick? Because I think the group needs to hear about the whole concept of the Sisters Lost and Found, because again, going back to what we can come out of here and do, I think some of you realize at this point that tomorrow morning, you need to call Youth Pride and volunteer to be on that line.
Yes, thank you.
The second thing that needs to happen, if there are social workers here, and I have said this until I'm blue in the face, and if this makes me sound like a communist or a socialist, so be it. But the bottom line is this. If we know doctors, if we know attorneys and social workers, they can give back. These are our kids, damn it. You don't need to be paid for spending a few hours to make sure that they have a life. And if that will help us get to triage, because what I'm hearing here is what Rick is talking about with the sisters and what they have, that would be our triage. But they're going to need professional people to make evaluations. And at the same time, Chris's kids, you know, I don't know that much as far as what their program is, except unless they get somebody through DFACS. But Youth Pride certainly needs some people to start volunteering their time and being there so that they can have a 24-hour clock. And you know, I work the same kind of hours Terrance works. You know, I go to hospitals at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you know, it doesn't matter who it is. 2 o'clock in the morning, the only reason I can talk a hospital in not releasing somebody is because they have no place to send them. And by law, once they're in the hospital, they can't release them to nowhere. So those are the, talk about that part of it, because I think that at least gets us to the
I just
triage.
want to make sure that Beth or Kathy, I don't want to misrepresent you. Do you have anything to add?
Rick.
Yes.
I'm Cindy, I'm with
Hey,
Chris Kids.
sweetie, I didn't see you up there, sorry.
I try to keep a low profile. Actually, let me just explain something for Chris Kids. Our permanent supporting and housing as of today, so let's get this straight about DFACS kids versus homeless kids, because I just did the count. We have 11 children under the age of 5. We have 8 parents, so we have 8 parenting apartments. Of those parents of 10, 7 of them were homeless, so they came in with their child. Other than that, we have 28 foster youth and 22 homeless youth. But you are correct, we don't have a triage. We don't have an emergency shelter. We have a process that, unfortunately, is longer than we'd like it to be. But that's under the guidelines that we have to be under with our voucher with the Atlanta Housing Authority. And it's HUD money, so there's a process. So I'm in total agreement with the triage, having a 24-hour hotline, and there is a need, but the need is for homeless youth. The homeless population of youth from age 14 to 24 is growing daily. So, yes, that includes LGBTQ youth, and all those letters you don't like, Rick. But it also includes a large population of homeless youth and parenting.
Can I get a commitment from you then, with the events that our community grows, that you will stop using words like rainbow and queer homeless youth? Because We give Chris Kids a lot of money.
I don't
And if
know.
you look at advertisements, now I've noticed you've cleaned up the website. Bravo, kudos.
Thanks to Beth.
But when you advertise that you're helping homeless queer youth,
They do, and they support
Right.
more homeless gay youth now
Yes.
than they did in the past with Rainbow House.
Who's
Exactly.
This is Frank Wren.
Thank you.
I'm just a volunteer,
I'm sorry.
and a donor for Chris Kids. But they absolutely do support more queer youth today than they did when they had just a select number of beds. So it's
okay.
I think there's a disconnect between the emergency sort of housing that
Yes.
we're trying to speak
Yes.
to.
Yes.
And the good work that Chris Kids does, and Youth Pride does, and other organizations in town do. What we're trying to get to is, and maybe we can come out of this in some way in a partnership, where Chris Kids is willing to help, Youth Pride is willing to help, the sisters are helping, Stand Up for Kids is helping, all these disparate organizations around town are helping set up an emergency system so that we can get kids off the streets tonight, and maybe tomorrow, we get them in touch with Terrance.
Yeah.
Or we get them in touch with
I think there's others, I think Covenant House should be
Covenant-
involved
yeah,
too.
Covenant-
I think there's a variety of providers that are in doing what we're doing, but we need help too, and I agree that, 24-hour hotline, emergency services, I think if we all partner together, some kind of collaboration, we're gonna get a lot further than one alone.
To answer what I think Rick was speaking to, I think the community gives a lot of money, well, I don't think, we know the community gives a lot of money to Chris Kids. I think the community assumes that that's going for these emergency services.
It is.
But it's not.
The community thinks that you are taking care of all of our queer homeless youth, and it's not happening, plain and simple. Yes.
I'm TJ Damon, I'm also a volunteer at Chris Kids, and I just think it's naive to think that any organization is helping every homeless child in our community. And anybody who came into this meeting thinking that their $50 donation at Premier Party or their volunteering a couple hours every so often at Youth Pride, and to think that alone, or that there's enough collective activity in the community to help every single homeless child, besides the fact that you've got all these homeless gay children that are part of that population, it's naive. And what so far I've been hearing is that you've identified that there's a need for this triage program. And I think that it would be productive to focus the rest of the meeting on the triage program, because the programs that you're talking about up here, really what it sounds like you're doing is complaining that they don't have a triage program. But I don't know that most of these organizations really say, we are going to be able to help every single child the minute you call. Again, it's not reality, because every organization is dependent upon public funding, government-sponsored funding, private funding that's got restrictions, and just to say, I found a kid behind the dumpster and I need a home for them right this minute, it may not happen.
We agree it's not reality, but it has been public perception.
Right, let's focus on what you are proposing to do,
And rather than just, but I just wanted everybody to
let's just
represent.
not beat up the rest of these organizations, okay? Let's just focus on.
Paul wanted to say something.
I think what I was going to say, Rick, really follows what you were just addressing. When Rick actually contacted me, and I'm Paul Chapeau, everybody, if you don't know me, and I know that Art has also been working every Wednesday night when I call him. He's out on the street looking and finding homeless youth. And it wasn't until he started telling me the stories that I was hearing from these guys actually working on the streets at night, the horror stories that they were beginning to tell me. I was like many of you. I did not really realize. I knew we had these programs. I knew we had Youth Pride. I knew there were Chris Kids, Covenant House. And in my mind, I was thinking, gosh, we've got all these organizations. I know I've given money to Chris Kids myself. I know we've got Youth Pride, and it began to sink in hearing these stories from the real life on the street, daily, weekly things they're dealing with. That gosh, there are some holes. So I'd like to re-emphasize what others have said. I think tonight, the way I envisioned tonight was basically creating an angel network that basically says, look, we've got organizations that are there, they're doing what they do, but there are holes and we need to find a way to plug it vis-a-vis this triage concept. So tonight I'm hoping that everybody gets your name on a list, give us your information, tell us how you can help out. It's not always about money, it's about time. But anyway, I'll let you take it from there, but I don't think it's productive either to...
The other ones that I wanted to mention, and some of you have already, is Covenant House, Jerusalem House, and Living Room. And the reason I give you these is so that you can educate yourself on what they do. Covenant House takes in kids, and they have taken my call, and they will physically, with the story about the trans person, they're like, look, we've never dealt with that before, but you get them here and we'll find a place for them. Jerusalem House, kids with HIV, they're willing to whatever we need. And the Living Room, you know, they're good too. Another one I went, Arts mentioned Stand Up for Kids, they're out there. So do your due diligence and spend your money and your time where you can. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So 3 months ago, I was 15 pounds heavier. I'd love to tell you I had a full head of hair, but I didn't. And I slept good at night because I was going out doing stuff in the community. I've not been sleeping really good lately. So I sat down with my partner and proposed something, and that's what we're going to bring up tonight. And I covered it with my sisters. So, Sisters of the Perpetual Indulgence to the rescue. I want to tell you about St. Lost and Found. In 1992, were you in this in 92? Were you at this? Here. No. Were you at the protest?
Sacramento.
From St. Lost and Found.
In Sacramento?
Yes. Oh, okay. All right. In 1992, the sisters mobilized against Reverend Cole and his Gospel of Hate at the Capitol Christian Center in Sacramento. Demonstrators chanted outside of the Easter morning services, followed drawing security and parishioners from the inner sanctum. While most... What happened? Oh, messed up my notes. Anyway, a kid came out and asked the sisters for help. He was gay, he was from Kansas, and he had been beat up and victimized for years. The sisters took him in and hid him and helped him until Kansas sent defects out to retrieve him.
Nebraska.
I'm sorry?
Nebraska.
Oh, Nebraska, I'm sorry. She wasn't there, but she knows this is one of our
I mean, I know the story, right?
Okay, so here we go. While most of the congregation hid behind Bibles and spewed hate, one choir member, a teenager, came out and joined the demonstration, outing himself in the process. What's the next slide? That's the story of St. Lost and Found. St. Lost and Found, as he was later named, came to the sisters for help once he was rejected by both his church and his family. Tragically, Nebraska forced him back to a foster home despite his wishes. And this is a short version. It went back and forth. The sisters would send lesbians on bikes out there to meet him and bring him back home and take care of him, or send him a bus ticket to a secret address, and he would come back out. But finally, it got to the point that he'd been beat up so much and dragged back home that he hung himself in the garage. So that's not going to happen anymore. Not in Atlanta. We're in the Bible Belt. If that happens in San Francisco, it's happening here all the time. So the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence here in Atlanta have allowed ourselves to form, because we are a nonprofit, a St. Lost and Found Fund. That money will be specifically used to take care of any youth that calls a number that we're going to give you later on in the evening. If we get a call from a youth 24/7, whether it's Art taking the phone, one of the sisters, myself, Paul, somebody not only will talk to that youth, but they will go out and meet that youth and make sure they're taken care of for the night. So know that as we go forward. I'm not dealing, and this is nothing against the mayor's office. I want to work with you. I'm not dealing with bureaucracy. None of this will be funded through federal grants. This will be privately funded. Before the meeting started, I had $600. Where's Pamm? Pamm, would you like to make your announcement?
I don't know if I can. So I represent the Lloyd E. Russell Foundation, which some of you guys and we're going to throw $1,000 into the pot, and I'm going to throw $500 of my own money. Oh.
I can do a lot of good with $2,000 till the end of the year, but we will be asking you to donate more. On the Sisters website, there's actually a St. Lost and Found button where you can donate through PayPal. It also shows you where you can send a check. We need more than just money, though. I have no problem asking people for money. For those of you that know me, and I usually don't take no for an answer, the Sisters will be out on the streets doing penny drives. Bring us your change, and we'll change a child's life. We've already had people contact us about doing fundraisers, and I'm glad to announce Eddie, Sister Fiddle.
You'll see the flyers on your desk, on your chair, and I'll put some in the back also. The Atlanta Bucks Rugby Association every year does their Miss Ruck-N-Maul contest, which is really just a big butt-ugly drag show with rugby players in it. And they have this year, they always designate someone to be part of the recipient part of the money. And this year they've designated the Sisters St. Lost and Found Fund as part of that money. Make it there on December 3rd at Jungle. Please come out. It's a really great fun night. If not, please give, be it volunteer or be it money any way else you can for this.
I'm going to have to go. I want to do whatever we can. We have an employee alliance that we just recently formed at the police department with all of our LGBTQ folks that work for us. And we have decided that we're going to pick some charitable organizations and do some fundraising. I think we just found it. So, to raise money. Sister Guns Ablazing and Chrissy Go Light both have my information. So once you all get the number and everything, please email me and let me know so I can get it out. Because I'll get it out to every officer on the force. They will have it in their hands to give out to these youth if they come in contact with them. Instead of taking them to jail.
Okay, so we've covered what's going on, and we've covered how we're going to handle it in the future. We're going to have a whole nother meeting, and please sign up in the back if you're interested in serving on a committee to talk about this. We want people that can make decisions, plain and simple. For those of you in the nonprofit world, the board that will be found will make decisions quickly. This won't be, oh, let's talk about it next month. No, I'm sorry. It's cold outside. These kids need a place to go. We will start an aggressive community grassroots outreach where we will approach every business, gay-owned business that these kids could possibly show up at so that they have a St. Lost and Found sticker as a safe zone. When they go inside, the employees inside will know that here, call this number, and they will help. So we'll need volunteers for that. We got, the website will be up in a week or so. as you already know, I mean, we've already covered some of this. We have an emergency hotel situation that we're working on that is in place, and so we can serve the kids. We will start a couch surfing program because I can't put an 18-year-old in there. We're talking, it's sort of like a gay aunt and uncle program. I slept on couches when I was first coming out, so, you know, yes, Kelly.
We're talking about using the hotel name for 18 and over. What are we going to do with the kids that are 18 and under?
That's what I'm talking about right now.
I'm sorry.
The sisters and a lot of the fairies have graciously agreed to take my phone call 24/7, which they used to do anyway. I love my fairies. I love my sisters. If I have a kid that's on the street that's 18 or under, I can surf them on the couch. And before anybody says anything, we can deal with kids for 72 hours before we have to turn them over to DFACS. Hopefully within 72 hours, we can get them into a program somewhere and get them help. But we can get them off the streets without sending them to jail, without sending them to foster care right away.
Rick, can I say one
Yes.
thing? I want to speak to, because folks have brought it up, you know, and it's true, as Rick's been doing this work in the past couple months, there have been times when he's gone to Flex and put a kid up in Flex overnight. And we all know, it's a no-brainer, that's not the place to be putting kids up. So, what we need...
What Flex is for those who don't know.
For those that don't know what Flex is a bathhouse.
A sex club.
A sex club. Just a little more than a sex club. Yeah. Anyhow, that's what Rick is speaking to right now, is to create a network of people who can help us avoid that situation. So for those of you who have
But I wanted to make it clear that we don't have to do that anymore, thanks to Bill's help with the hotel.
I thought that was an under 18 problem with build up.
Well, can you get them into Flex?
You couldn't get them into Flex if they're on that.
Right.
Is the mayor's representative still here?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question? Because this might help to this other piece. Because the one thing that I would feel like can happen is the mayor, you know, with the bullet pulpit can cut through some red tape. So is there a way that we could maybe sit down with the mayor and put Youth Pride in the room and Chris's kids and find out just exactly what the city could do to help with the triage? Because ultimately, this is almost like an emergency room thing that we're trying to put together. Because if we put somebody on somebody's couch, then yeah, you know, the next day we're calling Youth Pride or we're calling Chris's kids or to make sure we get that referral. The problem here is that if we don't find a safe place to do that, because couches are going to eventually, you know, the long and short of that is it's going to be a problem. So we really need the city at this point. And part of the reason that we need the city at this point is, as you just heard the police officer say when he went out, that they're willing to support us. But when they come across a kid on the street, you know, they only have two options. If the kid is crazy, they're taking them over to Grady. Otherwise, if they're under the age of 18, they're obligated by law to get DFACS involved. They wouldn't even consider us. So is there a way that we can have that meeting and start talking about how to get the city on board with that as well?
So I'll answer it this way. Yes, I'll definitely circle back with the mayor and, you know, present this option to meet with the community here to discuss further about options. Currently, so I did discuss, you know, the city's about to announce a Czar in this issue, in the space. But currently the city does have an Office of Human Services. And I'm not that well versed in that regard, so I don't want to speak for them. But Dr. Misty Vickers, who is openly gay, and I could connect Rick to her. But she would know the process of what, because we get federal funding to tackle some of these things. I don't think it's an emergency cases that we're discussing that we want to tackle tonight, but I believe it's in the long-term situation. So the city does have resources today And I'd be more than happy to connect and convene that conversation and making sure that, the immediate things that you guys are talking about tonight can be addressed through that office. And then following back up with the mayor to see his availability to meet and talk tonight. But, the mayor did run on a couple priorities, and one of which was youth and getting youth, into a safe instructor space. And then the other one that he's about to go into is hence why we're putting this person into a cabinet position is tackling homeless issues. And so, I'm sure he would be more than happy to discuss further and meet on it.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Cole. Some of you know that I have contact with a 21-year-old who is a homeless queer youth who also is my partner's daughter. And I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute, unpopular though it may be. I want to ride on something that Paul said. As this program is successful, and I am positive with the hearts in the room that it will be, we're going to have to pay real attention to things like putting kids on people's couches who may be mentally ill and may be a risk to the people whose homes we're putting the kids in. In my case, when our daughter circles around, she will often leave in the middle of the night. And it is not because I'm doing anything that has anything to do with the Bible other than saying, can we keep my door locked while I'm asleep?
Right.
And do you understand that you're not going to bring a troop of people in with you who I know nothing about? So you were talking about doctors and lawyers, and we're going to be taking some liability risks as we do this. And I just want to say that out loud because I think a lot of us may think, may have thought that, and that's a reality. So if you have a you're a doctor or you're an attorney, and you do something that's sort of, in between the lines, or we place a kid with someone who ends up being a predator, someone's going to come
Let me
hunt.
stop that right there. Anybody that the Caltron will have a background check. This is not my first time at the rodeo. So, we will put these kids in safe hands. Plain and simple.
I'm just kind of throwing that out as additional kinds of issues that the triage will hopefully begin to address.
Yes.
I've worked a lot of group home and crisis management work and stuff for various counties and states. And one of the important things that you guys are doing right is, but you need to weave in your programs together. And so as you do this triage program, you may have someone who doesn't have the mental health issue, but because they have been sexually abused or whatever, we need people who are going to sign up, a really well-balanced couple who have been in the community for a while, who are well-respected, know that they have to walk that fine line of staying above reproach. That kid may need the TLC as well. One of the things that the community also offers, no matter where we're at, is an ombudsman program. That program represents the kid. So if we had gotten that child or that person who ended up hanging himself in our program, and we've already worked with the city and all these other programs, and they've been well evaluated to what do they really need, that ombudsman can keep that person here and not keep dragging them back to the home that's going to continue to beat the stew out of them.
And that's definitely something that we want to talk about for long term. I really want to focus on the triage for tonight. So.
Right.
That's a committee action.
Yes.
Right. And it sounds like y'all, because of what y'all are doing, you're going to have the funds to get there. And I think it's real exciting that now the ball's definitely rolling.
Yeah, we'll get it done.
It's really good too to be able to discern between kids who are homeless and kids who are like the young person that I'm talking about, who if I asked her if she was homeless, she would say, no, I'm a rainbow person or a gypsy, or I choose to live my life this way. But when we see her, she smells, she appears to have not had a bath in weeks. And so there's that group of folks out there too that need some kind of assistance. I don't know if there's gonna be overlap or how that's gonna work.
I think tonight is more of an overview rather than getting to
Details,
specifics about
yeah.
his management, identification, and his planning. I think what we need to do is have some statistics about what's currently going on and to carry on with the general discussion and then move on into some more specific things at a later date.
But just to answer your specific question, just like Paul mentioned, we're gonna have to form a committee to talk about what we're gonna do long term, how we're gonna work with Chris Kids, Youth Pride, and all that. We're also gonna have to form a committee or a working group that's gonna be responsible for doing training for our volunteers, this triage, the lost and found volunteers. They're gonna pick up the phone, that are gonna go meet these kids. Because yes, those people have to have a certain base level of training to be able to interact with these kids. Yeah.
Somebody raise their hands. You didn't raise your hand?
Yes, I did. I'm very thankful for tonight because I've learned a lot, and I'm very optimistic about what's happening because there was a lot of things that have not happened.
What's your name?
Russ Beasley. My question is that you're talking about what we can do now, and I understand you've got hotlines, we've got some money, we have some resources in place. But I think to allude back to her question is, what procedures do you have in place? If I gave you my number and said, yes, you can put somebody on my couch tonight or next week, what do I do then? You know, what do I do? Do I just let them sit on my couch and the next day, okay, you gotta go because I gotta go to work? Or, you know, what we would put in front of them?
The first thing we would do is do a background check on you, and then we have to set up rules based on comfort zones. I mean, you know.
The answer to your question is no, but tonight, that's part of what y'all are signing up for.
Okay.
So I was going to say that you're talking about the committees and everything. I think we need to have a group to come together for that short-term thing because, I mean, we can't go live with this number tonight, but my understanding of what's going on with it. I mean, are you going to have enough people tonight for us to have a live number?
Rick's doing this every day now.
Yeah, I think the thing that we need to walk out of here with is an urgency, because it's already happening, okay? Because the gap was there, so it's already happening. So now, hopefully what you all will understand is that there is an urgency, and those sheets, wherever they are, sign them up, and within the next 24 to 48 hours, you're gonna get a call or an email. And the one thing before the representatives from Chris's and Youth Pride and the sisters, I will set it up over at our church in Decatur at our offices to host a meeting to begin doing some of the long-term stuff. So if there's, and the city too. So if there's, when you sign that sheet, if you would put availability of whether a day or an evening is good, then we can at least start moving it on that too.
I'm not sure if this is more so a long-term thing, but I think it's something that that maybe there could be a committee around about the idea of making a queer presence in any youth homeless shelter, because I feel like there are a lot of people like myself. If I were homeless when I was 18, I would not be out. I would not want my photo. I would not be associated. I would have been in the closet, and I would have been going to an entirely different program. And I feel like who we're capturing are a lot of people who are already out, and there are people who are homeless who just left and didn't tell their parents why, and they're still not out. So I would encourage you guys to not only volunteer here, but volunteer everywhere and make every homeless place a queer presence. Let anybody know, you have to accept all of us. Any child that you let into your home, has to be accepted.
So I just, as a point of, for someone who's working on the helpline at Youth Pride right now, tonight, right now, except my phone and stuff. Uncool. But those are the problems you're going to deal with, right? Your phone's going to die and things like this. And so it's complicated. I commend it. I have the number in my pocket as someone who works with Youth Pride and is concerned about our image, and we want to do the best we can do. But I also believe in the grassroots very much. Can I give that number out to somebody tonight? The one, the 68786 lost 25.
Yeah.
I've already memorized it. Do you see that?
Yes.
6786 lost 25. Because I want, as someone that works at Youth Pride, I just want to feel like, because if you tell me I can, then I will, Rick, I will. I'll say,
Yes.
Okay, okay.
24/7.
Here we go, folks.
Okay. It's officially going to be added to our helpline resource then, you know, and we'll work together, and I'll follow back around in the conversation with y'all. I'm going to go.
Okay.
Thank you. I will put my.
Thank you.
I think we've all learned a lot of good things tonight. I learned something that I didn't want to learn. Around Pride, Rick approached me about taking one of these homeless kids into my house so that he wouldn't have to be out in the cold. I agreed. Then something happened over Pride that made me a little leery, and I backed out. Tonight I find out that kid is now doing porn because I didn't have the balls to bring him into my house. This is going to be something that's going to require a lot of steadfastness. If we make a commitment, we have to live by that commitment. If we're going to say that we'll be there 24 hours a day, we have to be. Because it's not about my comfort, it's about their life.
JP Buckett. I, during Pride, carried a sign that was meant to be aimed at the bullying and suicide epidemic amongst our gay and lesbian, transgender, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, U. But it is very much the promise, the focus, the apex of what we're all in this room considering tonight. It's the 11th commandment, honor thy children. I'm here for you, Rick. You know I'm here for you. I'm here for the sisters. I'm here for our youth because they are our future. Somebody was there for me many years ago when I almost killed myself, not because of being homeless, but just because of being different. We are all here for a purpose tonight. Erase the boundaries, erase the issues, no finger pointing. Honor thy children.
Pull together, let's work together, make it happen.
Yes. Thank you, Rick.
Yes, dear.
Two things, it's just the old man in me, wants to say, don't beat yourself up about them doing sex work. Sex work is an honorable profession too, so let's not use it as a bullying. And some of these children are going to rip you off, and you got to cope with that and figure that out as a part of the process. You're going to get ripped off, and it happens. And that doesn't mean we don't do the work. It just means that it's a complex.
I'll be honest with you, the kids that we've been working with, Paul, put a couple up. Did you ever have anything missing?
No.
We've been very fortunate so far. It could
Right.
happen.
I mean, I sort of heard you saying that.
Yeah, we hide everything when we know she's coming, money, medicines, and,
All those
but
are
because
real.
the issue is get her in the house.
Yeah.
But we don't want her leaving with stuff we don't want her leaving
And
with.
I've almost felt that was lost, and that's an important thing that you said, that altruistic people need to think of too.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one last thing. Only voice that I heard a lot of voices tonight, the only voice I haven't heard coming in the youth themselves. And I would hope as we move forward and you start having these committees and working groups and stuff like that, you have to invite something.
Yeah. Well, we do have one here,
But not speaking or being invited.
Yeah.
We have a challenge with that. We don't like to parade them and belittle them in front of a big audience like that.
But this one's just got balls bigger.
So that's the reason why we chose not specifically to do that.
Okay.
But we
Bring
do
forward.
want to bring them into discussion. Daniel.
Is this website live right now so that if
No,
we left-
this website is not. The phone number is.
So if we leave here tonight and we talk to someone who is not here tonight,
what do we say to them so that they can contact someone?
Well, one, the Atlanta Sisters website is live right now. That's to accept donations.
But as far as people who, there's a sign up back here to get on a committee or something.
Have them call that number.
Have them call the number.
This telephone number is the best way right now. And probably with a couple arts help and stuff, within the next 24, 48 hours, this website will be live.
Isn't there actually already an email set up that's...
It is not. 24 to 48 hours it will be, and it'll be right there on that website with the email.
Several years ago, 40 years ago, something like that, we had a president of this country that wrote a book called Profiles in Courage. I know most of you haven't ever read that book. But at any rate, it occurs to me that you're about to walk out of here today, and we're about to write our own Profiles in Courage. And that's something that you all ought to be proud of, because this is absolutely something that needs to be done. Because we have no legacy, folks, if it isn't for the kids that are coming after us. So if we don't protect them, who will? So it's going to take a lot of guts. It's going to take deciding that you're going to step forward for something and take the crap, however it comes, and participate in something that I think in the state of Georgia is going to be historical before we're done.
One thing I would just say to sort of expect is, because I was on a committee like this in San Francisco for several years doing stuff set up. Any of the surveyed numbers that you have, expect them to explode once this gets out. I mean, even your, just the numbers that you're expecting to go up, double that, because there's so many kids out there that refuse to do any of the surveys and stuff, or even just look completely normal that you'd never expect. Once they hear about this, they're going to be coming in from everywhere. And it's you're also going to probably have to screen some of them, because I'm going to agree with her, because there's going to be stray kids and stuff that are nothing but trade trying to steal you, that are going to be playing the game. So, I mean, it's really good. Just expect the numbers to explode and to be a little weird.
Well, I would say that it's okay if straight people are using our resources, right? Because the point is to help all of you, right? So, some people are going there because the predominantly heterosexual shelters are full. So we were not supposed to turn anyone away. Just like we wouldn't want a shelter to turn away a queer youth for being queer, we're not going to turn away anyone for any sexual orientation.
Actually, they do, but there are new HUD regulations in line. Is Jeff still here?
Yeah.
Where are you?
Yeah, right here. There are new HUD regulations that have come out. Certainly if you hear of any shelter, any program that is turning away people because of their sexual orientation, their gender identity, I tell them that it needs to be reported to HUD.
Exactly. Just why we fought to make sure that doesn't happen. Nobody should be doing that, no matter what sexual orientation.
So Rick, is this line also for all homeless youth or just gay homeless youth?
I think that's an important distinction. The line, the program, the focus is for queer homeless youth.
So can we
We're
refer
not going to
the
turn
gap
away
that
a
we
straight
have at
kid
Chris
if he
Kids?
calls
Can we refer the homeless mothers and kids that are in that age range to this hotline in the hotel, and the 18 to 24-year-olds that are calling us every day that we don't have that triage for? Can those straight, and they may be straight today, but they're teenagers, y'all. They haven't figured it out. So are we gonna have this be open, or is this? I want to be clear when we hand this number out, who we refer.
Our main focus is queer gay youth, but queer homeless youth. But I will certainly talk to a straight kid and point them in the right direction.
Okay, so if we send 30 straight kids tomorrow and we fill up that hotel, that's okay that it's all straight kids that are in that?
No, I said I will, if we determine that they're straight, I will send them.
I got you. I just want to make sure, because I think, to your point, it is going to catch on. I mean, it's going to come out of the woodwork. And we've not even hit the tip of the iceberg, as you all know.
I think it's important. One of the things I was saying is out in San Francisco, we had to sort of screen some of the kids, because a lot of times kids sort of end up just betraying your home that would steal shit or roll you. You know what I mean? Get some hot little cute boy or whatever, all he has to do is play the game and he ends up with your wallet and shit.
So is the deciding factor, my question is, if you have two that are equal, one is gay, one is hetero, they're gonna get it because they're gay?
Yep.
If everything else is equal, am I understanding this correct? So we're not really filling the gap for homeless youth, we're filling the gap for gay homeless
At
youth.
least initially.
Okay,
Give it
totally, I
some
think it's,
time.
I just wanna be clear.
And the other piece of that is, don't lose sight of the fact that, yes, there are homeless straight youth out there, but they have more options than the group of people that we're talking about. So.
Well, I would agree, and then I would disagree that the age is what really makes it difficult, because if you're under 18, you've got the DFACS challenge, and if you're 18.
We're gonna end up like Youth Pride.
If you're 18 to 24, you're lumped into a shelter that's 50 and 60-year-olds. I mean, you know, you're not comfortable there whether you're straight or not. It's
As
your
much as we
age.
know the crisis is there, we've got to have the volunteers, because the bottom line is, you're about to give out that number, you're talking about sending all kinds. We're saying what we're trying to equip for. And as the program develops, then we're certainly going to expand it.
Sure.
Because I can tell you, there's nobody doing it now.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And to highlight that, I think also.
I think that if you're going to take referrals from established agencies and programs, there needs to be some sort of funding compensation to this group. You're not going to take 30 homeless kids on a referral without some cash behind it. I'm sorry.
Well, if we put the number on our website and kids are going there
Yeah, but
and
if you are
self-referring.
taking, if you
Sure,
are,
if we refer 30, I
if
get
you
that.
as
Yeah.
Chris kids are taking huge amounts of money from
Sure.
the gay community, then it really behooves you to put some of that money back in.
I could name 5 nonprofits that take huge amounts of money from the gay community and
but I'm
apply it
just-
programmatically. I mean, For the Kid in All of Us has 5,000 gay people attend their toy party, 22 beneficiaries, not one of them is gay focused.
There you go.
That's just one example.
And in regards to the staff and volunteers, they will be well-trained and will be able to give all resources out to.
I think this is great. I mean, we need this. This is a huge gap, so.
We're not just going in at,
Sure.
line. We're all going to be very vigilant about our activities.
These are these are difficult questions, and difficult questions don't get solved overnight, and that is okay. We have time to come up with logical, comprehensive answers to all of the concerns that have been raised. The important thing is that we are doing something, and we are doing something for the immediate that can be extended to answer all of these questions and concerns.
Thank you. Rick, I'm sorry, I'm passing forms through the crowd right now. There's been a couple of questions. This form is a sign-up form, basically with a comment section that says, you know, what level of commitment of either your time or resources. That's what we're looking for, a way to contact you, and then over to the right, just let us know what you can do. You want to speak to that, Rick? People have been asking me what to put on there.
Back to the straight issue. Can I just say that I personally have been working with Rick over the course of several months now, and I quite honestly don't believe that Rick would ever work less hard on finding resources for the straight community just because they're straight, and that's not our focus. I find that really hard to believe. And then another thing, any organization will never, ever be above reproach. There's going to be decisions made by the St. Olson Found Fund that you may not agree with, but just make sure that your opinion doesn't keep you from realizing the good that they're doing.
Anybody else? Just one last thing on that sign-up sheet. If you're a doctor, a nurse, therapist, attorney, and that would be helpful to this cause, put that down. Please.
And one more thing. We are currently running a winter clothing drive for the homeless kids out there. Every Sunday, we will be at Burkhart's collecting clothing. We will be at Wolf's tomorrow night. I'm sure you can call this number, and we can make arrangements to pick things up. Any sort of clothing, you know, we all have extra clothes stuck back in the closet, under the bed, whatever. These kids, again, can use it.
And also, if you have cell phones, any kind of computer items like that, that we can actually use to help get these kids in better places or in a job or whatnot. Plus, the cell phones gives it a lifeline to everybody. So if you can, if you have all the cell phones, donate them, bring it to us, we'll take them in. We've already started a collection of both computers and cell phones already.
Yes, Lori.
Rick, a question just occurred to me just as I'm thinking about homeless youth. In my mind, I'm always picturing young men. So I'm wondering, do you have statistics nationally, in Atlanta, or even from your experience, how many young girls are there that you find on the street? Or is it just young men?
I mean, we've been talking about guys, but this program is open to men and women and trans. Honestly, there are no figures on the complete number. I can throw some figures, I can give you figures from 2006, but I guarantee you they've doubled by now. That one of the things you got to realize is it's different. Yes, we find kids on the street, but we also our kids are very. They go online and find people online that they can sleep with for the night. You know, so it's different than what it used to be. So once we get the information out there, and I'm not, and the fairies and the sisters are not above, you know, putting posters on telephone poles, as long as they see it, you know. And it could be a situation where they're in with the wrong crowd, but they can't be open, but they see that number, memorize it, and they call us when they have a moment alone. We'll take them in. So, yes. Hey, Jesse.
Hi, how are you? Sorry, I was late, so I don't know if this question has been answered. But whenever you call this number in an attempt to get housing or any kind of you know, information or resources that they can get from this group, are they going to be forced to sign some type of pledge that says, I promise I'll try to get a job, I promise I'll try to find some type of
We've been in contact with the Alley 20 Center in New York. Unfortunately, the sister that took the tour could not be here. And we want to model our program off of that and the new program that is kicking in. They take the kids in, no questions asked. They, you know, if they're turning tricks, you know what? We're not going to ask you about that. Play safe. When you're ready to not do it anymore, we'll deal with it.
Because I think like a good example is the Pine Street shelter. They don't require anyone to, you know, sign any kind of pledge saying, you know, go promise to do anything like a lot of the other shelters do. And I think what you're saying, the example of like sex work, like a lot of people, I kind of had the feeling that, you know, sex work was kind of being demonized, whether, you know, in some cases, you know, it's an awesome, you know, line of work.